Herald Now, time for our panel of the day. It is 13 after 8 and we're joined by Maurice Williamson, former National Minister and Auckland Councillor, of course, and Maurice Slade, Business Desk Senior Journalist. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, we'll start this morning with the Filthy Few honorary member, that's a gang by the way, Mark Kimber. So hit and killed 2 pedestrians, received 2 further speeding offences since the death of the couple, had 70 driving infringements, as well as 11 previous convictions for bad driving, and he receives 3 years and 6 months imprisonment. This has obviously upset the family of the victims, but also raised questions about judges and the judiciary and the length of sentences and whether they marry up with the severity of their crimes. Maurice, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm outraged on behalf of Jeffrey and Karen Boucher, the couple that were killed. They're walking home from a restaurant, minding their own business. Some guy comes through on a Harley at 110 kilometres in a 50k. He sends her flying in the air and she's dead on impact, and then drags the guy underneath his bike for some distance. He dies before he gets to the hospital. This guy's got a track record of behaviour in motor cars and speed and unbelievable bad behaviour, 6.5 years for violence and so on that he's already served. 2 more convictions since this, and the judge goes, yeah, no, we've got to show some sort of caring for this guy. My real anger is there is no accountability for judges. They can do what they like, and you can't, there's no metric that says you're a hopeless judge. I'm really keen to put something in place in the law that says if more than, say, 20% of your judgments are overturned by your peers, that is an appellate court above you, then you're clearly failing to do your job and you're gone. But they stay there for life, and they can do what they like, and they're not accountable. And the poor old politicians, and I know I was one, and the ministers, not allowed to say a word because Stuart Nash lost his job by saying, well, I hope they appeal that sentence.
But what about the length of the sentences? The government has looked at, the maximum, increasing the maximum for some crimes. What about the minimum? I mean, that's another way the government can force the judiciary, right?
I spend a lot of time sitting in courtrooms, and I do have a lot of respect for our judges actually, and they have to go by whatever the law says. They have to operate within the parameters, but they also have to try and find the best outcome for the community, and it's a really difficult job trying to balance. I mean, you really feel for the family in this case. It's a dreadful case, and one could argue the sentence wasn't heavy enough, and if I was one of those family members, I would be feeling like it wasn't. But on the other hand, this guy apparently is showing remorse. He's apparently engaging with rehabilitation programs.
Maurice is grimacing at you.
How many convictions has he already had?
Yeah.
I'm remorseful now, but this is for the 29th time I'm remorseful. I mean, stop it. It's outrageous. And the family really, it made my blood run cold that your mum and dad or your brother-in-law or something go out for a lovely quiet dinner, walking home, behaving themselves, thinking about tomorrow, whoomp. And they even applied to have his Harley taken off him, and the judge said, oh no, I'm going to leave the Harley Davidson with him.
That's a hard one to understand, I must say.
Oh no, all of it is hard to understand.
Yeah. But Marie, is there, because I know what you're saying, that, especially if it's first, second time offenders, maybe, you show some leniency, but do you think things have perhaps got a bit out of whack, that this notion of we can fix everybody has gone too far? Yeah,
possibly. I mean, I think Maurice is right. There could be another look at some of the parameters in which they are operating. But they do have to go by whatever the rules are telling them to do. And they do have to try and find an outcome that is best for
But the Crown Prosecutor applied for 8.5 years, so he's obviously working within the framework of what the law was. Yeah. And the judge says, no, sorry, I'm only going to go with 3.5 and then 25% discount for this and then another 10% discount.
Which they've got to do, though. I mean, as you say, that's part of the law.
It is.
You've got to do the discount.
Yeah, but she could have gone with the 8.5 that the Crown Prosecuting was seeking in the first place.
Yeah, all right. Geez, you should be a judge, Maurice. I wouldn't like to be. I wouldn't like to go up.
Not for a first offence, you'd try to get the guy rehabilitated. For a second offence, you'd have a big talk with him. He's got a track record dating back years, and he's done so much physical damage and bodily damage to people and so on. That guy should be locked away for the safety of the community.
Now, councils have been increasing. We had the Funeral Directors Association on this morning. And the cost, you wouldn't believe what it costs to die in this country. It's not worth doing, honestly. Maria, anything we can do about it, and are you surprised to hear that the cost is increasing for councils?
I found it a bit rich, actually, that the funeral directors were having a go at the councils for raising their costs.
Yeah, true.
Because there's a lot of cartel-like behaviour that goes on in the funeral business. I know, there have been small businesses that have tried to introduce things like eco-coffins and so forth, and they find it difficult to break in to the industry because the funeral directors have their suppliers that they, make their money off and so forth. And a lot of our funeral parlours now are owned by publicly listed Australian funeral companies.
Right.
So the competition is decreasing in the sector here, which is something that at Business Desk we've been talking about having a look at actually. So I think it's a wee bit rich for them to have a crack at the councils. And the poor old councils, God, they're getting squeezed by every corner, trying to make ends meet. So no, it's not surprising they're putting up the prices.
So we got funeral cartels running around there on the loose.
Yeah, I'll get into trouble for using the word cartel, but yeah, certainly they have their own ways of operating. So, it might be an idea to look at the wider funeral industry.
I'll tell you what, I think the world has to change on this. Back when Auckland, 100 years ago, there was a few thousand people. They had a burial ground in Simon Street underneath Grafton Bridge, and you had, cemetery there. We now got 1.5 million. We're heading to 2 and going up. The land is in such short supply. A car park here in the city costs $100,000 if you want to buy some. Now that's about the size of a funeral plot. That's $100,000 to buy that land to make it. I think, this will be really controversial and blow your whole program to pieces, I actually think being buried will not be the norm to come. I think most people are going to have to go up the chimney and out through the smoke.
So we should make it elite. Ban
I think
burials?
Eventually burials, unless we're prepared to do what we're doing with intensification, and that's go up and have on top. No.
Well,
I'm sorry, but there are cemeteries around the world. You go into Buenos Aires in Argentina, and there are people buried one above the other.
Like strangers or family?
Oh, no, family members, but in a big mausoleum going up.
Oh, well, that'd be all right.
In some places like France, you only get your plot for a certain amount of time, and then you're out.
to where?
Wherever the family is deemed.
Okay, Maurice, let's unpack. There are some for religious reasons, for cultural reasons, where burial is the hard preference. In fact, it's a non-negotiable, right? So presumably you still have to have a service that's available for those people.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you've got a sort of a tradition dating back 2,000 years and you believe in a book that tells you this is what... You don't have the ability to do that if land is in such short supply and the costs are going up. Now, everyone's complaining about $7,000 for a plot. How about $100,000 for a car park? I mean, that's what land is worth.
Yeah, but you're not wanting to get buried in the centre of the city, are you?
Well,
the land values.
Some people want to, but even if you go out to Pariwa, no, honestly, you take the size of a plot in Pariwa, the land is worth it. If you look at your valuation for your property, the biggest chunk of the valuation is the land.
Yeah, I suppose.
And land is so expensive that council can't just keep giving away land we've got to get a realistic return on it.
Maria,
Go up the chimney.
Do you know what you want to? Have you thought about how you might want to say goodbye? Well, not say goodbye, but
I change my mind every other sort of month or two, actually.
Depending on the price of land.
Well, actually, after reading this morning's story, I'm thinking cremation.
Yeah.
When one of my colleagues at council was asked, are you going to be buried or cremated, he said, I'm going to let my wife surprise me.
Very good. We will leave it there, guys. Thank you very much. That's Maria Slade from Business Desk and Maurice Williamson, who's clearly going up the chimney.